Hello, everyone, and welcome back to What's Your Mess? Mental, emotional, and social status of life. And we have another amazing guest with us today. We have Miss Deanna Smith. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Miss Deanna.
Good morning, everyone. As Ms. Tracy said, my name is Deaunna Smith. I am an author, an herbalist, and a mother looking to change the world.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yes, an author, a mother, and you're looking to change the world. Now, I know that you haven't always been an author, and I know that you haven't always had that mindset of wanting to change the world. Okay, right? So
Mhm.
tell everyone a little bit about your mess and something that you've gone through and had to overcome.
One of the biggest that I didn't realize was a big deal until I was in a relationship with someone, and it was my parents' divorce. It
Hmm.
was my parents' divorce. I blamed myself for my parents getting divorced. And that did a lot when it came to my life
Okay, how did your parents' divorce affect you mentally?
because I blamed myself.
But why?
I was a kid. I thought I did something wrong. I thought I come between my parents. I thought I messed it up. I broke them. And mentally, mentally for me, it was you really shouldn't get close to people because you break things.
Oh, wow.
You're responsible for your parents, so you're not a good person. You you shouldn't even really have a relationship with your brother because you're the reason why our parents are not even together anyway. You're the reason why they argue. So if you're the reason why they argue, then you're a tainted person. You're not as nice. You're not as sweet. You're not a good person. And it messed me up. It really did. It messed me up. For years, I was an adult when I actually was like, okay, let me chill out here.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I want to go back. And if you don't mind answering,
No, go
what
ahead.
happened? So, like, how old were you? And like you said, there was some arguing and things like that. What was happening that caused you to feel like it was you? That's what I really want to
Kids are unintentionally put in the middle of things.
know.
And I saw the fights. I saw like there was two instances. They tie into one, but there were two separate instances. I remember my mom bringing me a key and saying, "Hey, I need you to hide this. And if your dad asks for it, don't give it to him." I'm a kid. I'm like, that's weird, but okay, mommy asked me to do it. And then I remember one night, waking up to like this loud banging. And I walked downstairs and I walked to the kitchen. My dad was banging on the door. And my mom was just sitting at the kitchen table. And she was like, "Don't you go get the key. Don't you touch the door." And stuff like that. It triggers things. But the memories that I have the most of my parents are during the holidays, watching them dance under the mistletoe at Christmas at my granny's house, and us going for road trips and things like that. So to go from those memories to having the memories of me and my dad and my brother always being with each other because my dad worked weird shifts. My mom worked for the hospital, so there are times where it was just me and my brother and my dad, but then there are times where it was just me and my brother and my mom. And we had good times. We had everything we need and everything we wanted. And so if my parents broke up, like I remember the day my mom told me, "I'm leaving your dad." I remember going and sitting in my grandmother's house while my dad's, excuse me, hold up. That was unexpected. Excuse me. Um, and my dad telling me what happened, and I'm sitting there like, well, Dad, I'll always love you, you know, and seeing my mom hurt. And so I'm thinking, I was like, okay, what did I do? Because anytime there was an argument, I was there, even though they tried to, you know, not do it in front of us. I was just there, and I remember both. And so I'm like, well, we always had all these good times. So I had to have done something wrong. Maybe I wasn't the best kid. You know, I know I was lying in school. I probably shouldn't have lied about the, you know, the C that I got. I probably shouldn't have lied about getting in trouble in class for talking too much. You know, maybe if I did this or maybe if I did that, they would not have divorced. So for me, it was I just went through I overthunk it. This is the beginning of the overthinking phase of Deaunna Marie. Okay. And I was just overthinking, and I was like, well, it has to be my fault. You know, nobody else is there. I'm the oldest. You know, maybe I should have taken more responsibility and did something. You know, maybe I shouldn't have lied so much about, you know, getting in trouble in class for talking. Maybe I should have, you know, made my bed more. Maybe I should have spent more time with my brother. Maybe. And I just got to a point where I was like, you know, it's my fault. I'm not great. You know, I'm not a good kid. I wasn't a good daughter. I had in what kept ringing in my head was I had to have done something wrong for it to happen
Mhm.
because they were happy.
And not knowing as a kid all of the other things that take place that kids don't see and kids don't know until much later down the line. And in that moment, you're trying to find the reason why. Like you said, the happiness was
Exactly.
there, the joy was there. And then they don't tell us,
No, no,
as
but we see
children,
everything.
but yeah, you're there, you're in the middle. And I understand, like you said, a lot of people I know go through that where, they either put their children in the middle or they were the child that was put in the middle of those types of situations. So know that you are not alone in that. And emotionally, obviously, it affected you emotionally. Let's talk a little bit more about the emotional, because I know the mental was the overthinking and the questioning yourself and the blaming yourself and trying to figure it out. Emotionally, how did that take a toll on your life?
Well, apparently it's still taking a toll that I didn't know about because I'm sitting here trying not to cry. Uh, I think just remembering the emotionally it was. I'm a daddy's girl,
Hmm.
and daddy can't do any wrong. But I was told daddy was all wrong. And emotionally, I'm seeing everything. I'm feeling all of this stuff like, well, if it's my fault, then I can't possibly be good for anybody. So emotionally, I just kind of started shutting myself off, you know. And I think I took that out on my mom and my brother
Hmm.
because there's points where I was angry, like, you know, he's supposed to be here, but it's your fault he's not here, so you can't be angry at him. So I was angry at myself. I took it out on my mom, took it out on my dad, my brother. There was moments where I would sit in my room. I'm a music person. Everything I talk through my music. So if I can't really verbalize my emotions, I listen to music. So I'll be listening to the music and just jamming it at the loudest possible volume and crying to myself, and nobody knew. You know, I would go hide in my closet because I had a pretty big closet, which is absolutely awesome. Uh, and I would cry to myself. And mind you, my parents divorced when I was in middle school. That's when the process actually started. So in during this process, I'm old enough to remember stuff. My brother doesn't quite, but I'm old enough to remember stuff on top of the fact that my mom's mom was going through a very rare cancer, and she was in stage 4. And so I had to be, if I'm the reason everything broke up, then I have to be the strong person.
Hmm.
So emotionally, I grew up a little faster than I was supposed to, which pretty much damaged me because I forced myself to be something I was not. To this day, my aunt still tells me I didn't properly mourn my grandmother's death. My mom's mom, mind you. Um, I think that was the beginning of me shutting down
Hmm.
because I saw the pain my mom went through. My dad, I my dad is he does not talk, so I don't know what he went through,
Hmm.
and I've learned that a lot of those characteristics I picked up on too because I don't talk. Like I don't want to talk about it. Let me just think about this. Let me be in myself. Okay, I don't want to talk about these things. But emotionally, I started distancing myself.
Hmm.
I became really mean.
Hmm.
It's before I hurt you, I'm just going to push you.
Hmm. Push you away.
So I know I can't hurt you. And my poor brother, got all of it. He didn't get the blunt of it. He didn't get a piece of it. He got all of it. Like I bullied my brother.
How many years apart are y'all?
We're 5.5 years apart.
Okay. So if
We're
you were
five
in
and a
middle
half years apart.
school, he was in elementary, you were going through the anger and the sadness. It was a sadness that turned really into an anger that turned into the action of being mean and bullying and pushing people away. And I know when you push people away, that has to affect you socially.
Oh,
So
it
kind of
does.
go right on into that socially.
So socially, now we're at a point. My social circle was just the people I went to church with.
Mhm.
Those were the only people I could really go out with. But the wonderful thing about them and my brother is no matter what I did, they clung to me. I could, excuse me.
Take your time.
You know what, Tracy? I blame you. I blame you because I was over this. Okay, I should not be crying, Tracy. This is your fault. It's your fault.
And you're
Okay.
still, but look, and guess what? And you're still over this, but there is somebody who is going through this right now, and they
Right.
need to see the vulnerability, and they need to see the emotion because I'm sure, I know I have
Ooh.
students that go through this, and they're in middle school right now. Some may be going through this exact same situation. So just
Ooh. Hug
because
those
you
babies,
remember,
please.
so your story and your mess is going to help someone else get through their mess. So just because there's emotion still attached to it doesn't mean that you're not over it. You are.
Yeah.
You've gone through it, you've come out of it, and remembering, a lot of times when we remember the past, it does bring about some emotions, but we have learned how to deal with those emotions, handle those emotions, and keep on moving into the future that we already know you're at, that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But go ahead, socially.
So socially, as far as my friends went, I had a handful. Again, all church, all church. It was Andrea Hill, Crystal. It was Crystal Grice, Regina Grice, and Crystal. She's Shepherd now. Spiller, Krista Spiller, and we were all like this. I mean, I literally grew up with them. Like by the time I left that church, I was 14, but I'd been at that church forever. So socially, they kept me a kid. They they were the ones that I could be myself around. I could be the goofiest person. The church that we went to was across from the railroad track. I got my nickname Big Country from one of my friends because after church I would be the one without socks and without shoes playing on the railroad track. Yeah, that was me. So socially, it actually socially was where I was. It's weird. It's the complete opposite. I was safe. They became my safe place. I didn't think, I didn't worry, I didn't have responsibility. Um, they were my place to vent because like during this time I'm growing into a teenager and me and my mom are clashing all the time because she's now a single mom. I'm a teenager. I got all these emotions. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. Me and her going at it. I can't do nothing right at home. I can't do nothing right nowhere else. But with my friends, they weren't expecting anything. We were just there. They were the ones she let me go to the movies with. You know how your mama say, "No, I don't know they
Other
people.
people.
You can't go with them."
Mhm.
No, no, no. She knew they people, so
Right.
it was okay. It was safe. Um, but socially, I shied away a lot. If I didn't know you, I didn't talk to you.
Mhm.
I kind of kept to myself until I got to know you. A part of me realized that I didn't. Now I realize I didn't know my parents, and the fear of the unknowing kept me from reaching out to people or connecting with people. And so that's what I did. Like socially, if I didn't know you, I was out. You would think I was the shyest person in the room, and I'm the biggest extrovert ever.
Hmm.
I'm just now coming out of that.
So
Like
how did were those friends already there as you were going through the situation? Okay, I was gonna
yeah,
say, but you didn't really allow other people in. It was
no,
just those that already kind of knew.
yeah.
Okay. And
If you
so
would knew, we did the no new friends. That was our theme before Drake. No new friends.
so how did that affect your status of life? Because you're growing through this middle school, now high school, you got this one circle, and you just say your mom is now a single mom and she's raising you and your brother.
Mhm.
Okay, so how did the divorce affect your life and your status of living?
My mom was one to always make sure we had everything we needed.
Mhm.
So we didn't go it out. There were times I remember one time the air conditioner broke, and again, this is where the mental and the emotional clashed with the outer life. The air conditioner broke. Both myself and my brother have asthma. It was during the summer. My mom sent my brother to go stay with my grandmother because his asthma was worse than mine. And I snapped on my mom. I was like, yo, I got asthma too. Why I gotta stay in this hot house? You care more about him than you care about like that. It was things like that. So as far as the status of my life, I was in high school. I really I didn't go out a lot, again, no new friends. And then if I did just so happen to get invited somewhere, I didn't go. My mom was she wasn't strict, but if she didn't know you, I couldn't be there. Um, I went to school in my freshman year in high school. I went to school in Lamar. My mom worked in Galveston, so there were a lot of times where I was home by myself. I literally socially I became a little adult because I was helping my mom. I had to grow up quickly. So as far as social goes, kids my age, yeah, I could hang out with them. I could be cool with them or whatever. But to actually go out, to actually walk to school like a kid does, my social life was at school. I had no social life outside of school, except for when I went to church. You know,
Mhm.
I just remember making sure that I made life easy for my mom because throughout this time, my grandmother's passed away now. So
Mhm,
I had people telling me, okay, you got to be strong for your mom. You have to be strong for your mom. You have to
mhm,
be strong for your mom. So socially, for me, it wasn't, there was no time to just really just be out with everyone else because I had to be strong for my mom. I didn't have time to be a kid. I didn't have time to socialize. I had to be strong for my mom. I had to help my mom. I had to do this. I had to do that. And mind you, my mom never put any of this on me.
mhm,
Just like them being divorced wasn't my fault. But because I'm taking the stuff that people are telling me and added it on to all of the stuff that I already had,
mhm,
I had to be strong for my mom. You know, I couldn't break down
mm,
because I had to be strong for when my mom broke down. I couldn't break down because my little brother, who's 5.5 years younger than me, depended on me to be the big sister. I to go out when my mom doesn't know anybody, so I don't even bother asking to go to dances or anything.
mm,
Um, and then just when I'm sitting here and thinking about it, it all happened so fast. It was parents not getting along, parents get divorced, parents separated, grandmother dies, and here we are.
mm. And
Like
all of that was
it
while
all
you were still in school, right?
I was
Be-
in junior high school going to Stephen F. Austin Middle School
And
in
then
Galveston,
when,
Texas.
and then were you in high school when your grandmother passed?
Oh
Or were
no,
you still
ma'am.
in middle school?
I was still in
You were
middle school
so all of this was happening in middle school. See,
at
I'm
this.
over here
Yeah.
thinking, I'm thinking, okay, the divorce was in middle school, moved out, and I'm looking through the timeline high school. So you're growing up, but you were still in middle school, and all of that happened at the same time. And I'm sure, like you say, you were trying to help your mom out, you're trying to make sure your brother is good, and your status of life was, like you said, having to be more of an adult while you were still a child. Now, how did you come out of that? Because I know at the beginning you said that you really have just started to get over this. And I know I'm not putting your age out there, but I know next week you're gonna be in a whole nother age bracket.
I'll be 40. I will be 40. The big 4-0-4-0 club is coming. I'm right around the corner. I'm right around the corner.
So at least 20 plus years ago,
Hmm.
this happened.
Hmm.
And it's taken about that long, or how long has it taken? And just tell us, how did you come through it? How did you clean it up?
Okay, so it started. I was driving, and me and a friend of mine, we were going to a choir rehearsal. We were part of this small group of singers, and we were on our way to rehearsal. And I don't know what I said, but it triggered her, and she told me, she said, "You're not responsible for your parents' divorce." She said that had absolutely nothing to do with you. And that's the first time anybody has ever said anything to me. But I guess in the conversation that she and I was having, she picked up on that. And she said, "No, I need you to let that sit. Let that sit for a second. Like you have nothing to that was them. That was their problem. That had nothing to do with you." And it took a while to marinate. Like it really did. It took a while to marinate because and mind you, I'm like at least about 24, 25.
Wow.
And so for all these years, for at least about a good decade
Mm-hmm.
or more, I've been carrying this with me. And when she said that to me, something just kind of wavered in the wall I had. It was like, wait a minute. She said they are grown people. They had their own problems. And it had absolutely nothing to do with you. She said, you need to let that go.
Facts.
And Tracy, it took me a few years to let that aspect go.
Mm.
But then I'd already built a life around it being my fault. There had already been situations that have taken place and that have happened because of my perspective of things. There was still the anger at my mom. There was still, and mind you, this whole time, that was the other thing. The relationship between me and my mom faltered because of
Mm.
how I felt about her, because it was her fault. My anger was directed at her because she was there. Like, don't get it. My dad was very active in our lives, but my mom had custody.
Mhm.
So she was the one that was there. Her and my brother, they were the ones there. So they got it all.
Right.
And trust me, I have my mother's tongue. I, the nice nasty come off real nice when it's real nasty. Let me tell you something. So once she said that to me, she planted a seed that just began to just kind of grow. It took a while. It was like a bamboo tree. You know, they start off in ground, they in ground forever, and then like 3 years later, all of a sudden they just sprout up out of nowhere. One of those situations. And I just remember that weight being lifted.
Mhm.
But now it was, after that, it was dealing with the stuff that took place in that decade before I was told it wasn't my fault. Like, the stories I've heard about things, and my perception of them, and then my perception of my parents, you know, and just hearing the stories, and then just over the years, and then coming across Antonio, the thing that he says the most is, you everyone does the best they can with what they had. It took me, he told me that for the first time 7.5 years ago. It took me, I'm not gonna lie, it took me a good 5 years for that to really settle in. And once it, and having your own kid really puts some stuff in perspective. And the more he just kept drilling in me, they did the best they could with what they had. The more I realize I'm doing the best I can with what I have in raising my kid. Me and his dad aren't together anymore. Oh, that's another thing that it did to me mentally, because I recognize that on my dad's side, my grandmother and my grandfather never slept in the same room. On my mom's side, my grandmother was on her second marriage. My mom and dad were divorced. And in my head, I'm like, I'm not gonna be like that. If
Mhm.
I'm marrying for permanent. But I never let my guard down enough to do that.
Mm.
Mentally, it also did something in me, that having to be strong for my mom meant I viewed my mom differently. My mom didn't lead me. I had to lead myself because I had to lead my mom through her pain.
Mm.
So when it came to marriage, my husband didn't lead me. I led him. You're not gonna tell me what to do. For the past decade or so, I've been doing this stuff on my own. You can't tell me nothing. I got a job, I got a car, I got a place. Sir, you can come stay with me. Like, I got this. I That's when my control kicked in,
Mhm.
because I had to control the situations. I had to make sure everything was okay. You know, it was just, and then it was weird because it became this thing of me and my brother. It was just us. So that was a mentality state that we had to deal with, which I didn't know how big of a deal that was for my brother until I was 18. Because again, me and my mom were always clashing. My mom put me out.
Mm.
And me and my brother cried together. She's like, who am I gonna talk to now? Who am I gonna play with now? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, dude, we ain't never just really talked or played. So I don't know where this is coming from. Like, I was trash to you. Like, I'm confused. And it just I got out of that because I started realizing they did the best they could with what they had. My mom had a kid. This was new to her. My dad had a kid. This was new to them. They got married. My mom was 20. My dad was 22. They had me 2 years later. They were still kids themselves. They didn't know nothing.
Mhm.
I don't know why they got married. I don't know, and from what I hear, they were so madly in love with each other.
Mhm.
And mind you, again, overthinking. I'm hearing how they were before me.
Mhm. Now that I'm here, things are different. So
So it had
obviously,
to be me. It
it
had
had
to
to
be
be me.
me. It
Everything
had
was
to be
all
me.
good until I came. Mhm.
Exactly. Like they was copacetic. They was good, you know? And the more I learned that, and the more what the other thing that helped me was I had to realize my parents were growing up too
Yep.
at the same time, and you don't know it until you go through it. I had to go through it to understand, dang, this is what my parents was going through while they had me. I'm surprised they made it as long as they did. They were together 14 years,
Oh, that's good. These days, that's really good. And
right?
the thing is, people and as they 14 years of change and evolving, that causes friction sometimes because you're not the same. They wasn't the same person. Your mama wasn't the same person at 20 as she was at 30. You
Right,
know, the child
exactly.
is there, but like you're saying, you had to realize it wasn't you. I think that it was that evolution of both of their lives. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what happens.
Exactly. And how I've gotten to a point where I've actually, and I can actually say I let it go. I'm getting emotional because I'm remembering what it would, but I'm actually okay now. And what gets me there is understanding I had to change my mindset. I really did. And Tracy, that was not easy. I had to change my mindset and I had to understand that as I learned myself, I learned my parents.
Mm,
As I learned my brokenness, I learned my parents' brokenness. When I took me out of it and I recognized the things that were going on in me, I started paying more attention to the stories my parents told me about their childhood and their history and their past. And I realized that no, I didn't have anything to do with that divorce. They were two broken people who
hmm,
came together into a broken relationship because they were already broken before they got there. They tried to make it work in all of their brokenness, not realizing that they were broken. They had kids in this brokenness. Their
mhm,
kids are broken, but they didn't know any of this. I have the privilege of having the knowledge of understanding, hey, chick, you broken. But before you do anything else, let's try to put some of these pieces back together before you break somebody else.
that's
And
good.
and that's what helped me, the understanding that my parents were broken and didn't know they were broken. And they're still hurting from some of that brokenness. Like I can look at my mom and I can look at my dad. They don't have to tell me anything. I see it. I feel it. They both go into these deep, it's on their face. Neither one of them can hide their facial expressions. They don't talk to us. They've never really talked to me and my brother, but we know.
Mhm.
Well, I'm gonna speak for myself. I know because my brother, he's at a point in his life where he just gonna come out. He gonna straight shoot it. He not gonna sugarcoat it. No, he just gonna go ahead and cut you and put the lemon juice in it. He ain't gonna go for all that. He ain't got time for all that. He say, look, this is what it is. I don't want to talk to you because when I talk to you, that's how I feel. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I've also recognized my brother's brokenness in the process too. And he and I, we talk quite often, and we shed some light on each other, and he's getting through whatever it is he experienced. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was just understanding that we all have a human path. And on that path, that brokenness happens. And just because I recognize it don't in myself doesn't mean that they recognize it. So the best thing I can do is understand that they did the best they could
Mm-hmm.
with what they had. Forgive them for doing stuff that they didn't even know they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then forgive myself for dwelling in it.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started that process, I actually have a better relationship with my mom now than I've ever had.
Mm.
I have a better relationship with my dad, you know, and I've learned more about my parents because I stepped out of the rage and the anger and the hurt and in the pain, and I just pay attention to them, and I've recognized that my dad is an empath. He don't say nothing. He won't say nothing to you. He keep it, and it makes me understand him more now. He keeps it to himself, which makes me wonder how was that when he was married. And then
Mm.
my mom is she has the spirit of discernment. So if you have the spirit of discernment and you're an empath, how the hell did y'all get through this broken? Because being a broken empath is the worst thing in the world because we take on all emotions as our own at that point
And hold it in.
and hold it in and
Mm-hmm.
build on top of it. We don't
Yep.
just hold it in, we build on top of that. Like we start building cities.
Mm-hmm.
And it just and I was sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, like this is what I grew up in. And they didn't know. They did the best they could. And they did a damn good job. Like here recently, I've actually told both of my parents, I say, so my mom, I say, Mom, you know you did a good job, right? And she looked at me, she smiled, she said, yeah, I know I did. And we laugh about it. And then I looked at my dad one day, and my mom said, she said, no, I did the best I could. And that's not the first time she said that, but that's the first time I heard her.
Ooh, that's it. That's it.
And I even told my dad, I said, Dad, I said, we okay? I said, you and mom did a damn good job. He said, yeah, but I still worry about y'all sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I say, I know. And having a kid of my own, I get it. Tracy, they always say, have one of your own and you understand. I understand now. I understand because that little boy, whew, he be having me just erasing, but at the same time, he gives me these moments of knowing that he's okay. And then I realized, Deanna, you doing the best you can with what you have
Which,
today. Tomorrow you'll have more, so then you can do even more tomorrow. Like that's what I tell myself now. And I tell myself that with life, not just with that situation, but with life in general. You're doing the best you can with what you have, just like everybody else in the world. So that one lesson helped me not only realize and get over my parents' divorce, but it helps me with my day-to-day life with dealing with people
mm-hmm.
on a day-to-day basis because I went 35 years broken. In the last 5 years, I've been going through the process of healing that and working through that and creating a new story. And sometimes it's hard for me to deal with people.
Mm-hmm.
But when I
Yeah.
tell, yeah, but when I tell myself, hey, they doing the best they have, just like you. So give them a break. I even
Mm.
say that when it comes to my kid. So I have to tell myself, because sometimes I treat him older than he is because this little boy is older than he is. And I forget he's 8. And I have to tell myself, okay. And so I have to tell myself, Deanna, he's doing the best he can with what he has. In the little 8 years he's been on this planet, you've been here longer than him. Give him a break. The whole point of you being older than him and you having him was so you can guide him. So
Mhm.
give him a break, educate him. Don't tell him you got to do this. No, educate him. This little boy asks questions all the time. If you give him an answer and he got a question, that means you didn't answer the question right for his understanding.
Mhm.
So break it down to him.
Mhm.
And when I do that, when I realize he's doing the best he can with what he has, I'm doing the best I can with what I have, and everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. That's what helped me through really just letting go of my parents' divorce.
And right there, let me ask you this. Now that you have a better relationship with your mother and your father, have you ever told them that you blamed yourself?
Mm-mm.
Hmm. Okay.
It's a reason for that.
Okay.
Um, my dad questions his parenting. My mom questions her parenting.
We all do. We do.
Yes, on a daily basis. I didn't want to add on to what pain they may have already been going through and haven't released. So I never told them that I blamed myself for their divorce. But I have had conversations with my mom because I never blamed my dad. My dad was, I'm a daddy's girl. Dad is perfect. Dad's superhero. Dad don't do nothing wrong. Mom did everything wrong. And I actually had a conversation with my mom. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I blamed you for a lot. I said, and I apologize because I see what you were doing now. I just
Mhm.
wasn't receptive to getting it. I just wasn't receptive to it. And instead of going at them saying this, I decided to just let them know I'm sorry and you did a damn good job. And every now and then I feel the urge to tell them you did a damn good job because I think they get to a point where they question. They still, to this day, they still question. And I get why. I'm about to be 40. My brother's about to be 35. We're adults now. And they see us. And again, my dad's an empath. My mom has a high level of discernment. They pick up on stuff we don't tell them.
Mhm.
So to no, I never told them that I blamed myself, but I do tell them that I love them. I do tell them that they are damn good parents. I wanted to let my mom know why I'd been, excuse my language, such an asshole to her over the
Mhm.
years and that I understood her now. And I wanted to let her know that I'm sorry. But no, I stopped blaming, I stopped telling my parents certain things because I know they go through enough already.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
blame themselves for enough things. So to add on to them, oh my God, my daughter thought that she was the reason all this time when I thought that I made sure that we kept the kids out of it, only to realize that she was pulled in deeper than we ever thought. I didn't want to lay that extra burden on them like that.
Okay. Just wondering, because a lot of times, when people express themselves, it gives people a better understanding of the situation at the moment, like the way you were acting, the way you were, acting out and behaving or misbehaving or treating people, you know, shows that you were putting that blame and that burden on yourself. And for anyone that's out there that's listening, as I'm listening to you speak, I can just see this is an awesome message for different audiences, not just for kids or students that may have parents going through a divorce, but my parents out there, like the parents that are listening, like listen to what she's saying. You know, you're doing the best that you can with what you have. And then adults that's out there and you still having issues with maybe your parents, or you still haven't gotten over what your parents did to you or how you were treated. Listen, I mean, this message is they did, because let me say it like this, because as you're talking, like literally, I just called my mom yesterday and I had the same conversation with her. And I was telling her that I was appreciative of the things that she did for me and my brother. Although it didn't come in the way that I expected it to come, she was given to me the way that she got it. So she gave me what she thought was supposed to be the way it was given. And that's what they do. That's what we do as a parent. We give the way we think that it's supposed to be, and then sometimes it's not received the way that we expected it to be. So,
Right.
parents, for my adults, children, for my children, don't blame yourself, okay? And remember, your parents are doing the best that they can. And remember that people change and you can't control what other people do. So don't blame yourself for other people's actions. Go ahead.
I just want to say this to your audience because of that thought process that I had, and because I never talked about it with anyone, I just let it pack over and over and over and over, and I started building this dislike towards my mom, and everything my mom did was wrong. And my brother was the golden child, and this and that. He did no wrong. Da, da, da. I missed out on a full scholarship, a full 4-year scholarship to the college of my choice. I just had to major in music. That was the first one. The second one, I missed out on the opportunity of going to Tuskegee University to get my veterinarian degree. It was the second one. All because it came through my mom.
Wow. And you didn't want, I wasn't on a good page. So you missed out on your opportunities because
of
your
all
feelings
that.
for
So I want to let everyone know, let it go. Whatever you're holding on to, they did the best they could with what they had. That's all they knew.
Mhm.
And their intentions were not to hurt you. Their intentions were, they probably don't even know they did it because you never said anything.
Mhm.
But don't miss out on the greatest opportunities because of how it's delivered to you.
That's good. It may not come through the person you're expecting it to come through. It may not even come through the person that you like. It might come through somebody that's your enemy that you don't even think that they're going to be out for your best interest, but it might come through them and you have to be open to receiving those opportunities. Great point. Great point. So let me ask this last thing. If someone wanted to reach out to you later or stay connected with you, someone may have the same story and they want to thank you or appreciate you for sharing your story. How can people reach out to you?
You can text me at 409-795-1834, or I can be found on all social medias at Deaunna Marie. And that's DeAuNna Marie. My mom was very creative. Or you can email me at Deaunna@DeaunnaMarie.com.
DeaunnaMarie.com. You got your own .com? Okay,
Yes,
look at you.
ma'am.
So wait a minute. So you know what? Let me go back. Let's talk about that. I cannot leave this interview without talking about all the things that you have going on in your life, because that was your past. This is your now, and you have a future. So what's going on with you now and coming up in the future?
Okay, so there's quite a few things, and I'm loving it. I'm so excited, so happy. I'm working on two major projects, two major nonprofit projects. One is for homeless children ages 13 to 18. The other one is for veterans transitioning from active military duty back to becoming a civilian, and then also helping get homeless veterans into homes. That's two. I have two books out. Well, one is a journal, one is a book. I have another one coming out, and then I'm working on another one. So I have a total of about 23 books coming out this year. No,
23?
12. There's 12 coming out this year, but then there's like 12 coming out next year. Something like that. I think so. I think, if I remember correctly.
Wow. OMG. And I'm happy about my
Um,
one.
no, look, Tracy, let me tell you something. I was that dreamer as a kid. Like I've wanted to be a foster mother since I was like 20 years old. Don't ask me why. I've always wanted teenagers. I never wanted the babies. Everybody wants the babies. Give me the ones the people don't want, because they need to feel love too. And I think that stems, while I've never been homeless, I've never been in the CPS system. Just something about the fact that we are so discriminatory when it comes to kids who need help bothers me. You want the babies, but what about these kids that already got personalities that you've already taught because I'm a certain age, I'm not wanted?
Mm, mm, mm.
What about these kids who have been raped and abused because they're homeless because you didn't want them because they came out to you as gay or lesbian? What about the kids who parents are out there doing whatever, so they really have to take care of themselves, but they're too old, so you're just gonna leave them to the elements? What about, or the kids who are in abusive homes and their mindset is way past yours because they're more grown than you are at this point, so you can't deal with them because they're problem children? No, them the kids I want, because they need to know, man, look, you grown. You've been through a whole lot. I'm 40, you 14. You've been through more in your 14 years of life than I have in my 40. I respect and understand that. With that being said, here go your room. Do what you do. When you ready, I'm here. But until then, here's your safe place.
Mm-hmm. And
Here's
people
the
need
place.
that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Especially kids, because as they grow up, they gonna run it. They're gonna be responsible for the mistakes that we made, and then they're going to make decisions based on those. So if they're broken, we're leaving a broken generation to make decisions for the next generation.
That's right. That's exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to the veterans,
Mm.
they literally decided to give their life so we can do all the stupid, dumb crap that we do here in the United States. And you mean to tell me they can't even get a job because they overqualified? You mean to tell me this man served in a war that probably destroyed his family, only
Mm-hmm.
to come back to have to live on the streets?
That's right. That's right.
I have a problem with that. I
Me
really
too.
do.
Me too.
So those two are my biggest, that's what my heart is.
Mm-hmm.
The books is because as a kid, I always read books. I've always wanted to write. I'm very creative and I like to share my creativity. And that's what the books are for, but not all of the books are the same. Like the framework journal is a self-help journal, which literally came from the universe, came from God. I really can't explain it. I asked the question, I got an answer. It's in the book. Like that's literally how that happened. Like
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
asking the question, like, man, what am I missing in
the-
life? Like, why are things cloudy? Well, you're not framing your day, so here's how you do it. Oh, that's how I do. Okay, well, I
asking it
got,
shall be given.
and it was given. So I did what I was supposed to do, and I gave it.
Mm-hmm.
One is a book of just short stories because I like reading, but they all have different meanings to them. The other one that's coming out is an herbalist book. I'm giving you the breakdown of herbs, specific herb. I have a list of herbs in there, what they do, how they help, how you can prepare them. Because my brain as a kid. I watched my grandparents with these big, the little square lunch kids, little square cloth
Mm-hmm.
lunch kids. Yeah, from corner to corner of medication. And
I
that's what
was
they took to.
I was just about to say, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, they put pills in it. It was like a pill box. Yes. I was like, it
Yes,
wasn't herbs, it was pills.
it
Yes.
was pills. It was
Mm-hmm.
pills. And let's not forget the Sunday to Saturday pill box that go on
Mm-hmm.
top of that. So they remember what pills they
Which
need to take
day?
each day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now my parents have those same bags. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute, we not gonna make this generational. Because these people back in the day when they was in pain, they ain't go pop a pill. They wouldn't pull bark off a tree and chewed on it. So what in the hell was they chewing on? Excuse my language. Like, what was they chewing on? And that's what the book is for. Like, my mom has a very chronic level of fibromyalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And just the other day, I was reading something or watching something, and I saw an herb that helps with that. So of course, my crazy self, I've been helping mama out. We got this. So that's what that book is for. Then I have another book coming out, a book for religious leaders and professional speakers. It's just a book of short stories. Because what's the greatest way to start and end a keynote? Or what's the greatest way to get your point across while you're in front of your congregation? A story that they can relate to.
That's right.
So it's going to have over 1,000 stories in it with the biblical scriptures to go along with it. So if you are a religious leader, you can associate those scriptures with the story so people know, oh, he's not just coming off the top of his head with something like, he can back this up. Or just stories and illustrations for professional speakers. And there's more to come after that. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm currently in the process of building my website with short stories, recipes, things like that, different blogs. I have an app that I'm going to be working on this year, as well as a game. Both me and my son are in a gaming class, learning how to build games. So we'll both have games coming out. What else? I have a podcasting platform that I've built that's going to be coming out. So there's a lot, Tracy. There's a lot, and I'm excited for it all because I thought a lot about 40.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the closer I got to it, I was like, you go through that reflection period, like, okay, what's really going on in your life? Like, are you gonna live the same year again, or are we gonna flip this up?
Mm-hmm.
And I have decided that I'm going to do everything I've ever wanted to do. It's not too late. Like my mom's dad was in his 70s and he learned how to use a computer. He went from being a business owner to learning a new trade. Why he decided to go into the funeral business, I do not know, Tracy. That's still
Funeral
surprising.
business, because it never goes out of business.
Well,
I'm just
that
saying.
makes sense. That makes sense. But this I didn't realize until, again, when you remove your perception of people around you, you learn more about them.
That's true.
My mom and my dad, when I removed the perception that I had about them and I actually sat down and just in conversation with them, I realized that entrepreneurship is in my DNA on both sides of the family. My grandfather has been an entrepreneur and ran his own business since my mom was a child. And it never dawned on me. I just knew my grandfather was a caterer. He had his own, like he was the guy with the barbecue truck outside the club. Yeah, that was my grandfather. But he also catered these multi-million dollar events too. And I was there every step of the way. I grew up in it. Punch girl. First I went from the ice to the punch to the bread to the beans to the meat. That's how that flowed.
And that's the business. And he was entrepreneur. You didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. So in listening and realizing what my heritage is, I'm ready to live it to its fullest because I understand that the one coming after me is going to be greater than me, but he's only going to be greater than me if I'm my greatest self.
Mm-hmm.
So he about to see mommy just all over the place. And he's gonna be like, yeah, that's my mom. And you see the picture right next to her, that's me. That's how I want that to play out. Antonio's always told us, he used to do this test with us. He says, who remembers your grandparents? We remember, I remember my grandparents. Who remember your great grandparents? Up, that hand too. Got that hand too. Who remember your great grandparents? Up, got that hand too. Because I was one of the people. I have been blessed all of my life. I have been in a situation where we've had 5 living generations under one roof at one time
Mm-hmm.
of women. And let me tell you something, that's rare.
Right.
He was like, but what about the others? And I'm sitting there like, what you talking about? What about the others? Like, do you remember your great
Great,
grandparents?
great, great.
No, I don't. He said, because they didn't do nothing. They wasn't nothing. I'm sitting there like, hold on, sir. First off, you're not gonna talk down about my family. But then it dawned on me. I was like, he got a point. The only reason I knew about them was because they were alive.
Mm-hmm.
But if they weren't here, would I have known about them?
Mm.
And they really didn't make a massive imprint on the world.
Yep.
I want my kids. I want let me tell y'all this. Right. I
The
want
rest
them to
of
be
all
sitting
the generations that follow after us.
every generation. I want them to be like, let me tell y'all a story about your great grandmother Deaunna. She was crazy. She wasn't wrapped right. But doggone it, she the reason why we got this house today. So let me tell you about that's what I want. And the more I think about that, the more I'm like, it's time.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered, and I'm saying all this because you said what's in the future. This is in the future, but my future doesn't exist if I didn't know my past.
Mm.
My dad's grandfather started an entire settlement for mixed families when mixed marriages was still illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Right here in Texas. Never knew that. My grandmother's family was one of the largest cattle ranchers in the state of Texas. My future is larger than that because if they did that, if they were trailblazers like that, if they were living like that, if they had that type of legacy for their family, then guess what? It's mine. So whatever the generations before me didn't do, I'm pulling all that today, and I'm going to do it and even more going forward because my son is going to know that his great grandfather started a settlement. My son is going to know that his great grandfather was one of the largest cattle ranchers in the state of Texas, that we owned cities, not just land. But there's whole sections of cities that are called our last name, that we have our own cemeteries. One is in Texarkana, we have 2 in Anahuac. This is our culture. And we have one in Louisiana that I haven't been to yet. That's what my future is going to be. So everything that I have coming out it's not only just to save people, but to leave a legacy of saving people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want my son to understand it's not just about you. You are here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you live in it or not, I can't do that for you. You have to decide that. But I'm going to be a damn good guide on how to do it. So that's what's in the future for Deaunna Marie.
And you're saying that's what's in the future, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, okay, and I'm what is the last words of encouragement? Because all of that right there was words of encouragement. I'm over here taking notes, trying to figure out. It's so many great nuggets. I don't even know which one I'm gonna do in the promo, y'all. Okay. What? Like seriously, like when you said when you change your perspective of someone, you actually get to know them. Because this is what I was thinking. All the information you just said about your history and your past, you only was able to learn that from someone in your family telling you that, right? So you
And
had to be
asking
able to
questions.
communicate with them, ask questions. But if you have a perspective of them to where you think a certain way, you're not going to go and ask questions of them. You're not going to get that information. And that's how a
Mm-mm.
lot of generations end up falling because of the perspective that they have of their family, their mothers, their grandmothers, and they never get the information so it can be passed down.
I'm gonna give you even a stronger example. Let's say you don't talk to your mama. You got a whole side of your family that you won't talk to because your perception is if I'm not talking to her, I'm sure she's telling them all kinds of stories. So I'm not even gonna bother with them. Only to find out years later when you change your perception, they been wanting to see how you doing. They've been wanting to talk to you. They've been wanting to love on you, but you created that distance because of your perception.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real life story.
Mm-hmm.
I,
And your last words of encouragement for everyone.
my last words of encouragement. You can only connect the dots going backwards. So live every day like it's the greatest day ever. And then when you connect the dots going backwards, you can celebrate all the joys and the blessings that you went through day by day, only to know that you followed the right path the entire time.
And I was just gonna let that settle right there. I was like, we're gonna pause and know that you have gone on the right path all along. And some of us feel like you're on the wrong path. So for anyone that's out there, as we wrap up, first I want to thank you, Miss Deaunna Marie. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing your story because I know, truly know that this is going to help people that you have no idea how many people your story is going to touch. And I thank you for sharing your mess and turning your mess into a message. And for those that are out there that may be experiencing the same type of situation, know that, hey, you are not in this alone. Other people go through the same type of situation. But don't blame yourself for situations. Change the way you look at people, your perspective on people. Remember that your parents did the best that they had with best that they could with what they had, and just all of those great gems that she just spoke to you all today. Remember those, take them with you, store those in your heart. And whatever your story is and what you're going through now, let that be a message for others in your future. When you come through, when you overcome, when you come out of your mess. So, this is Tracy D. Armstrong, and I want to leave you with a quote that I always like to end with. If you want to stay sad, live in the past. If you want to be anxious and worried, keep thinking about the future. But if you want to be happy, focus on the present and be grateful for the things that you have today. Thank you for watching What's Your Mess? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a good one, y'all.